When the NFL hits the field in the beginning of September, sports fans across America know that it's go time for all things sports and even college football. Preceding the start of the NFL season by at least a week or two, NHL and NBA are both ramping up their respective seasons, which typically I think begins sometime in October. But Major League Baseball is quickly coming to the best part of its season as everyone jockeys for key positions in the playoffs, in particular the wild card. So now would be a good time to call on our buddy Jorge Martín for a quick conversation regarding some of MLB's triumphs thus far in its soon-to-be ending 2021 season. I hope you'll enjoy.
I actually kidded with one of a fellow fantasy analyst, and I said, "Yeah, I really start to pay attention to college football like at the end of the World Series." So I'll keep an eye on what UCLA and USC are doing. But yeah, World Series is over. All right, when's Michigan, Ohio State, and those games?
You know, that's awesome, and actually that's the perfect segue for what we're going to talk about today. In this episode, we actually wanted to touch on what's happening in MLB. And one of the things that I was looking at was this past season, we've had some extremely interesting things baseball has tried to put to market because, frankly, they've been getting their tails kicked by MLB, by NBA and NFL for quite a few years. So they're trying to do something new. I still love baseball when it's done a certain way, and I'm not one of those old fogies, so I'm all in for. I am an old fogey, but I'm talking about here. And so I'm not into keeping the status quo as the way to keep fans entertained. So the first thing that caught my eye, well, I'll give it a thumbs up basically as far as what MLB did this past season. And we still have, about 3 weeks left before playoffs begin?
About 4 weeks.
So we have about a month. Field of Dreams game. That to me was one of the best things I've ever seen Major League, any league, forget that, And I'll expound on that a little bit more, but what are your thoughts on that Field of Dreams game?
Well, number one, the introduction was just spectacular. It was spectacular. I really expected that when Kevin Costner was walking in with the baseball in his hand, I really thought Ray Liotta, who played his dad, actually it wasn't Ray Liotta. I forget the name of the man who played his dad.
I'm not sure.
Because Ray Liotta played Shoeless Joe Jackson. But I expected the guy who played his father to come out, and but then to see all the ball players come out of the corn, it was such a beautiful surprise, and they really got into it. It really was breathtaking. And then you got one of the most incredible games of the year. You know, the ball is flying, right, and the game ends on a walk-off home run.
Yes.
You could not have scripted it better. It was absolutely spectacular. They need to do this on a yearly basis. I did hear something that it might be the Dodgers and the Cubs next year. So something like that. But they need to do more of this type of stuff. I love it when they also do the game with the little leaguers, where the players come and talk to the little leaguers and talk about their own little league experience, and it shows them and it shows the world, hey, you know what? Everything starts somewhere. So it really is phenomenal, and I baseball needs to do more of that kind of stuff just to kind of keep the game fresh and exciting for fans.
I couldn't agree more. And it's interesting. In discussions I've had with people regarding the specific game, specifically what you just mentioned about doing more of that, someone actually brought up, and it made me think, they said, well, what about if you do something too often, then it takes away the special nature of it. They felt this was a one and done. Some felt as incredible as it was, they felt it was going to be a one and done situation. What are your thoughts?
No, I don't think it can be a one and done. I don't know if they're going to do it 10 years in a row, but they have already talked about it, doing it again next year. It's special. They need to figure out a way to keep it fresh, because maybe it's not going to be Kevin Costner walking in from the corn.
Right.
Just you need to be able to keep it exciting, and you got to make sure you're putting your stars out there. I mean, it was no surprise that it was the Yankees playing there with Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton and those guys. Next year, if they really are going to put the Dodgers out there, it's going to be Mookie Betts and Cody Bellinger and Trey Turner and those guys. It's you want to make sure you put the stars on these nationally televised special moments, and just to really keep the game out there. I think that the thing that the baseball has that's a little bit it almost kind of works against this is the fact, the everyday nature of it. It's not when you're coming to the games, it is an event, but it's not like the NFL where it's an event once a week, or the NBA or the NHL where it's 1 or 2 days a week. It's every day, so it becomes a part of the wallpaper, and that's the one thing that they've got to create these unique moments where they play these kind of games that are special. It's not too different from like those college games that are played on aircraft carriers around Thanksgiving, just to kind of get the troops involved and everything like that. I think something like that. I don't think they're going to play baseball on an aircraft carrier, but playing something where you've got thousands of servicemen playing. Not playing in the audience. I think I know San Diego does that, and that's wonderful that they do that. I'd love to see more of that. Give me more unique games.
I agree completely. Everything you just said. I actually think that they should stick with the Field of Dreams thing for a little bit. I think they should dive into, story. You and I have discussed this numerous times, how storylines drive it. You're a journalist, 35 years of being a journalist. It's I might be aging you a little bit too much, right? So 30 plus years of being a journalist. And so it
actually is 35 this year.
I thought so. I didn't want to give away too much.
1986, the first time. So
35 years. That's special. Man, that's awesome.
That's why I don't have hair.
Well, I don't have hair for other reasons too. So, it's one of those things where I think storylines drive everything, as we both know. And one of the things they could do, I think it was great that it was the Yankees with their big names, and it's the Yankees, and the White Sox, storied franchise, but not necessarily known for being winners to the level of the Yankees. I think rivalries would be the next bet. Dodgers and Giants, Yankees and Red Sox. I think you can get the next 2-3 years at that Field of Dreams field to be special. And listen, man, I think I heard somewhere that was the first professional baseball game or professional sport ever played. We're not talking about the AAA, the minor leagues, which are still considered professional, but we're talking about the pro league guys, football, baseball, basketball in the state of Iowa. And if that's true, then I think the people in Iowa would love for this to come. I think just from the business, the purposes of business. And I had a friend bring up to me, I want to know what you think of this. I had a good friend of mine in discussing this with all the people. We're so high about things, this baseball game. I had a friend actually say, and he's a Pittsburgh Pirate fan, so I don't know how much I want to take from him, but he had something good to say. He said, baseball in creating special events, similar to what the NFL does with the Super Bowl being at a neutral site, maybe they can play the Super Bowl, the World Series, at this field for a few years in a row and see where it goes. And I pushed back. I said, that's a great idea, actually. Both teams and the city would benefit greatly from all the tourism that will come into the city over the weeks and weeks leading up to it. I said, but baseball and basketball, I think the multiple game championship series, I don't know if it's going to lend itself to the special nature of what you can do for a single game in the Super Bowl. What are your thoughts?
Well, number one, I think it wouldn't work. I think it's a great idea, but it wouldn't work. And it's partly because of the calendar. By the time you're playing in late October, maybe even the first couple of days in November, Iowa is cold.
That's true. I didn't think of
So,
that.
and if they were to do if they were to do a neutral site, I think last year the playoffs gave us a little bit of a preview of what's going to happen in the future. I think there will be a neutral site World Series in the future, where it could be like the Dodgers playing the White Sox, but they're playing in Texas, like they did last year, or the Yankees and the Cubs are playing in Milwaukee. I think what they're going to do, they're going to find places that have good weather or a dome. And I think they are going to create a lot of different things to celebrate the game. Like the NFL, they award the MVP and the Rookie of the Year and all those things the Saturday before the Super Bowl.
That's Pro Bowl time, right?
Yeah. You've got 7 days, 8 days, because they will put a day off in there. You got 7 days where you're gonna 7 pre-games where you could say, okay, now the MVP of the world, the American League MVP is Shohei Ohtani, and he gets introduced. I think it'll happen. I think neutral site will happen, but I think they're going to take the weather into account, and they're also going to take into account. They're going to treat it just similar to the All-Star game, where you're looking at you want to showcase the new shiny new stadiums. Dodger Stadium went through all these renovations. They're going to be hosting the All-Star game next year, 42 years after the only other time the Dodger Stadium hosted the All-Star game. So I think they're going to take their cues from the All-Star game, because you've also got the Futures game in there. So where you get the stars of the future. So I think what's going to happen, you're going to see these, these multi-day events spread over time. And instead of crowning the Cy Young Award winner and the MVP and the Rookie of the Year 3 weeks after the World Series, where people organizations put together these makeshift press conferences, they'll do it at the World Series when they've got all the eyes on there. They could showcase their superstars if they're not there, and then I think the neutral site World Series is coming. It's just I don't know when.
I like it. I like that idea.
Yeah, but I think and I mean it becomes a revenue generator, and it becomes a way for Major League Baseball, away from the game, to have those meetings with the big wig sponsors and start to lock down sponsorships for the next year, preferably for the future.
Hey, that's a smart move as far as I'm concerned. Within all that you just stated, you mentioned something. I've wanted to ask you this for months now, because it popped in my head at the beginning of this season. I've never understood how Chavez Ravine, being one of the most legendary in baseball now, right? Dodgers, LA. I never understood why we don't get, meaning LA, the Dodgers, are rarely, if ever, host the All-Star game. I never understood that. It's one of the best old school, I call it old school, not in a negative way. It's one of the best stadiums in all of sports. How is it that we rarely, if ever, and you just mentioned, when is it coming? Next year?
Yes. It was supposed to be last year. It was supposed to be last year. It was going to be the 40th anniversary of the 1980 All-Star game. But why haven't we hosted it?
Yes.
Well, the big thing for a long time, leading up to probably like the previous 15 years, Dodger Stadium, there were two things working against Dodger Stadium hosting the All-Star game. Number one, all these other teams were coming up with these beautiful new stadiums that are actually more, because you're looking at creating a media event, and they were more equipped for this media event. If you looked at at the facilities that the Dodgers had 15 years ago, compared to what you would get, there was nowhere near the amount of space for visiting, for the amount of media that would come and cover an All-Star game. So there wasn't the technology upgrades that were needed for the major level broadcast. So there was that was working against them, and also Dodger Stadium needed renovations of its own. I mean, there are a lot of beautiful changes that Janet Marie Smith, an amiga of mine, mine. She's the architect who came on with the Guggenheim Group, and she actually made some renovations to the stadium to make it modernized. And she made an incredible center field experience so that fans could come in through there and just kind of like really,
I love that,
really,
by the way.
Yeah, and it's really spectacular. And so I think what's happening is, so they needed that to improve the fan experience. So that was one thing. And plus, you looked at all these teams. The teams that were getting it were these teams that had the new stadiums that they were able to, really, really showcase, and already had a lot of those amenities for both the fan experience and for the upgraded media event.
Okay. I love hearing all that.
But now it's ready. So, hey, bring on the All-Star game and bring on the World Series every year. Why not?
Especially that last part. I'm down for that.
Yeah.
Well, we'll finish on this because we're going to come back in a couple of weeks when we actually have, right before the playoffs, so we can talk a little bit more MLB regarding, even though we'll be full swing with baseball. It'll be interesting. I'd love to hear your opinion on who's making it in. And on that note, it brings me to the last question. What's happening with the Dodgers and the Giants? I've never seen it this way. And it brings up a couple things for me. One being, I've never understood how, and it's all competition, but I've never understood how you have these teams that work their butts off all season. Everyone does, but injury and other things take place, trades, things you can't look at from the beginning of the season. When these things take place, all of a sudden you have the two best records in all of MLB in one division. And so someone's going to get screwed. I can say that. So someone's going to get screwed, unfortunately. I'm hoping it's not us. We didn't think it was going to be the Giants. We thought we were going to be dealing with the Padres, but injuries kind of really messed them up, and some other things as well, but primarily injuries. They're young, so they're going to come back. They're going to be not nipping at our heels in the next few years. They're going to be barking in our ear, unfortunately, the next few years, the Padres. But I don't see them as a big threat right now. The Giants, you didn't receive anything about them, this and that, and these guys are just the steady hand. And they just quietly have just been smacking the league this year. And it looks as though we're going to be in a dogfight the next 4 weeks. We, meaning the Dodgers. The Dodgers are going to be in a dogfight. I also heard that, correct me on this, if you need to. So is this the first time, if they do finish with the best records in all of MLB, the two of them, is this the first time two teams from the same division finish with the best records in all of MLB?
Well, I believe in 1993, when the Braves and the Giants went all the way down to the last game of the season, and I think the Braves won 104 games and the Giants ended up winning 103. When the Dodgers knocked out the Giants, basically, at that point there was no wild card, so you needed to win your division to keep going, or else. So they were tied going into the last game. Braves won, Dodgers lost. And, I believe the two of them were both had the two best records in Major League Baseball. And that was the crime. They came out and they were both in the National League West at the time. So there was that. Back in 1962, the inaugural year for Dodger Stadium, the Giants and the Dodgers played a 3-game series, and the Dodgers ended up the season 102-65, and the Giants ended up the season 103-62.
Wow!
And so, and I believe they were both the best teams in baseball. So just that was a crushing. The Dodgers were actually leading in the 9th inning of the final game, and it was at Dodger Stadium, at brand spanking new Dodger Stadium. And they lost in the 9th inning.
The wild card thing actually has been a benefit
very much
all these years. I didn't realize that. See, that's why
very much
Jorge on, man.
I mean, you look at it. But see, here's the tough thing about the wild card. The wild card is a one and done. That's a Game 7 of the World Series. Yeah. So let's say
stakes are high.
Yeah, let's say right now the Dodgers, hopefully they win the division. Okay, let's say the Giants win the division, and the Dodgers end up second, and the Padres finish third. which I think is the way they are right now. Mm-hmm. The Dodgers and the Padres would play one game playoff, and if the Dodgers lose,
they're done.
That's it. They're done. They're going home. And the Padres have Blake Snell, who has all of a sudden been pitching like he did against the Dodgers in the World Series last year.
Right, last year for the Rays. Right.
If they line him up to go a one and done game, I mean, I'd be scared. I'd be scared because he pitched against the Dodgers the other day and just completely dominated him.
I guarantee you, the Padres manager will not pull Snell at the end of the game like he was pulled against the Dodgers in the World Series last year.
Well, he pulled him from a no-hitter a couple days ago. He had a no-hitter going through 7 innings, but his pitch count was fairly high. And
I think he's saving him. That's different. I think when it's on the line, though, when it's on the line, I think that guy's not coming out. It's going to be interesting. But all these things, the Field of Dreams game, the draft at the All-Star, during the All-Star weekend or week, if you will, was it the day of the All-Star game? The draft?
Which one? The draft? No, it starts. Yeah. It goes over multiple days. So I believe
it was around All-Star week.
Yeah, it's. I think it starts on the Monday, the day before the All-Star game, and then I think it goes for like 2 or 3 days. And
that to me is a great improvement. Again, fan experience. NFL does it really well. The NFL draft is a bigger show, a bigger production than most NBA and MLB games and productions. Just the NFL draft. So that whole week leading up to the NFL draft and what takes place after as a result of who's drafted where in the NFL, that's all great stuff. MLB, Field of Dreams, All-Star game tied with their draft. Television products, man. And we used to say television. Now it's all digital. So it's all the same concept, basically. Content for the screen. So I think they should keep doing it. We're going to have a lot more to say on the MLB season as it draws to a close in the next 4 weeks. And in particular, as things ramp up. And as Jorge mentioned a second ago, the high stakes involved of someone like the Dodgers. They trudged through this season with all these injuries and all the other things that have taken place and some of the scandals on the team and all this other stuff. And yet they're going to be in a good position to potentially have the best record in baseball. So there's a lot at stake taking place in the next 4 weeks, and we will definitely come back and talk to you guys about it. I appreciate you taking the time, Jorge, and we'll loop back to you in about 3-4 weeks and get your mind on all the new things that have taken place and right before the launch of MLB's playoffs.
Oh, gotta love it. Gotta love it. But right now it's the nitty gritty and it's just beautiful baseball from here on out. And then it gets even better in October. So
couldn't agree more.
Thank you so much for having me. I always got time for you and I got much love for you, brother.
My pleasure, my friend. Hold tight. We'll talk soon. Take care.